Wow. Ah. That blew up more than I was expecting. Luckily, I didn't make any promises in the comments without anticipating the possibility of the video getting popular. Okay, so dual blades always get a bad rep. Oh, it's the ADHD weapon, or oh, it's for new players. And yet they haven't switched off greatswords since the day they were conceived. I think the weapon's pretty fun though. Flashy, fast, and it even gets the adept dodge from GU. Oh, that's why people call it the ADHD weapon. Anyways, I'm a strong believer that dual blades have always gotten some really fun and creative designs over the years, between the PETA violation, or ananas if you grew up in Ontario, your alcoholic father on an average Tuesday night, and beating monsters with your meat. So, since I guess this is a series now, let's rate all 31 of the Monster Hunter Wilds dual blades, since apparently YouTube decided I'm a Monster Hunter channel now, and one with memberships as of a few days ago. Remember, it's just the Rarity Hate designs because they don't change much between rarities, and I don't want to be here all day if I'm being honest. Real quick before we start though, I just wanted to add something new to this whole series. At the end of each of these, I want to add up all the points given to each weapon type and see which had the best designs. So since I didn't do the one in the last one, SNS, we'll quickly do all the math. I know you don't want nerd shit in your Monster Hunter video, but come on, just bear with me here. And total is 237 for SNS. Yippee! Okay, to get back to why you're all actually here. First up is the Esperanza daggers from the Expedition Tree. I mean, it does fine as a good middle point for the rest of the ranking. It's just normal dual blades though. There's not much going on here, I'm sorry. 5 out of 10, I guess? Okay, immediately we're getting into some confusing stuff here, so I'm gonna explain it all. This is where I would normally put both Rathalos and Guardian Rathalos, but there isn't a regular Rathalos dual blades in the game. Technically, but we'll cover that way down the line. The Wyvern Sentinels, though, are a pretty good design. I like that the blades are mostly white with that little bit of Rathalos skin peeking out from the back and some light spikes on the blade. It is very shocking that we don't just have a regular Rathalos dual blades though, even though it's practically been in every game since dual blades came out. Good for them. I don't know, it just stands out like a sore thumb, but I might have something for you guys a bit later down the line, but only for the people who hit the funny button down there. Now, something about dual blades that I really like is that we get a lot more weapons that aren't necessarily tied to a specific monster, like the Master Sabers. I absolutely love the Master Sabers. They're a bit more stereotypical with how they're just two broadswords, but I really like the color variation and just how sleek and cool they look. I'm breaking my rule here, but even the lower ranks have some really interesting colors that really make me love this design. It kind of makes me think of the Irithyll Straight Sword from Dark Souls 3, which is on a completely, totally unrelated note. It is my favorite DS3 weapon. So how about a 9 and a prayer not to judge me on my Dark Souls 3 weapon choice? How about we go into another non-monster dual blades while we're at it? The Dual Cleavers. Now, normally a lot of the strictly ore weapons tend to be a bit lackluster, but I would be lying if I said I didn't like the unique look of the dual blades. It's really good. They go for this really neat hatchet design, and there's overall not a lot to say about it other than the fact that they're just two big, cool metal axes. Compared to the other ore tree weapons, it's a very welcome difference, so how about like an 8 for that? I can't say I'm liking this trend out of the two weapon types we've covered so far, only having 2 of the Apex monsters each, and of course it's been 2 for 2 on Jin Dahad again with the Precipice Ulokem. Honestly, I think they look kind of plain. It's just a fun design on the blade, and it's gonna take more than that to impress. Okay, that convinced me. They reflect Jin's design really well. It keeps his oxidization effect that I love, along with a slight design detail you might not notice unless the weapon's unsheathed, and that's that it's not just one blade. It's 3 blades per hand. Revolutionary, I know. It just gives this really cool Wolverine look, and I love how sharp the whole weapon feels, especially the hilt and grip just being one big long-ass spike. Honestly, I think this weapon just kind of makes me like Jin as a monster a lot more than before, and I really like how unique it is while seeming so basic at first. How about a 9? And to nobody's surprise, we have another 10 right at the beginning. I don't even like Odogaron all that much, but the dual blades are really, really cool. I think by now you can tell I like weapons with physics. Maybe they look too much like jingling keys for my smooth ADHD brain to see a difference, but the Bequeathed Oblivion being this double-sided Kusarigama with physics is just the coolest thing ever to me. For the actual design, sadly, regular Odogaron isn't in the game this time around. He didn't get invited. But I do still like the balance they struck with the normal Odogaron parts in the Guardian one. The red from normal Oda is used to decorate the top of the bladed part and a little bit on the back of the handle to give an eye illusion. They seem to like doing that with weapons, and I still think it's cool every time. It easily gets a 10 and stands as probably one of my favorite dual blade Monster Hunter designs ever. Okay. I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment. I read all of your comments on the last video on how I didn't register the Quematriz SNS as a Spanish word because I'm Canadian, so I'm here to redeem myself. The Fire Trail Magnesia is a really fun weapon, actually. I was worried since the SNS was more on the plain side. I really like the barbecue theme I'm noticing this time around though, with the two blades actually being different from each other. The more prominent one in the design is a bit of a butcher cleaver design, while the other hand is holding a honing steel, which is a tool used to sharpen knives. They had to have thought about giving the weapon a unique sharpening animation. I really think it was a missed opportunity that it didn't get one. So even with that small blight, I would still say I like the design a lot, but a missed opportunity is kind of sad. So maybe a 7? Now with the bone tree, I get a bit confused. See, the name is Wild Hatchets, but they're more like machetes? Did they think that there was too many Axe themes dual blades in the game? Because, like, yeah, I agree, it's starting to wear out its uniqueness, but it's such a weird name. As well, I think this is probably one of the more boring bone weapons in Wilds. It's basically just the Seregios SNS without the shield, and sadly that just doesn't do it for me. I think there's a lot of potential to really take a page out of the Bone Hammer or SNS here and use a part of a monster skeleton to really lean into the primitive aspect of the design. But sadly, we didn't get that. Honestly, I think it's the lowest on the list out of 3. It's not much to add to it, it's just a bit of a boring and plain design, I guess. Now, we have our last apex of the list, unfortunately, and of course, it's beautiful Uthduna. I like to call her Rachel, and we have coffee on the weekends. And here is where I'd put my Uthduna sword and shield. If I had one. The dual blades are so beautiful. It's a crime Uth doesn't have more designs based on her. They even have different colors. The main hand has more red patterns on a darker base like a gray or deep blue, while the offhand has a lot more of a vibrant blue under the red patterns all over the weapon. They're just decorated so beautifully, even using part of her veil to act as a tassel. The blades almost look like instruments with their curvature, or maybe that's to reflect Uth being so fucking fat. But I initially thought of those scoop things that you'd all for sure played with in gym class. A bit of an Uth nuke with this one, but they're probably going in 10. I really love them, and I'll mourn the loss of an Uth SNS every single day. You know, it's actually been fairly positive so far. There's only been a couple standout that have been on the low side, but so far it's been really positive. Which one do we have next? Oh god, it's the farting monkey. Congalala's in the video game, and honestly, I wish I didn't have to cover him. King Ass Ripper's dual blades are the funky maracas, which is honestly apt given Conga's whole gimmick. As much as I hate this stupid, jobless, lazy, fat-ass monkey, I have to give it some merit. I do like the instrument-themed dual blades. They fully go into the maraca look, but give it a little bit of spikes coming through the conga fur. They also do have a nice bamboo handle, but that's about where my praise ends. I just don't think I can use these without worrying that it just so happened to be a part of the fur Conga uses to dig in his ass. I'm just gonna give this a 6. I hope Congalala's not too mad at me about that. Excuse me while I go cry in the shower. At least we're done with that. We can move on to another monkey, Ajaricon with the Ajara Penthaka. I have to say, a lot of my issues with the SNS are fixed with the dual blades, but I have new ones. They go for a sharp tonfa look, reminding me every day that tonfas are just never coming back, so stop asking for them. The blades have a nice use of Ajara's scales, starting out with a more small scaly look to the center and using more of its shell crest sulfur buildup. Though I think the back half of the weapon is my lesser favorite part of it. I think it tries to incorporate some of Ajara's explosive elements by making it look more chaotic and shattered. I just think the top half looks a bit better. The handles look like they could be used on some fat lazy king's scepter, and while I do like the gaudy feel of it, it's a bit too much for me. I think Ajara is a good 8 as well. It's an improvement over the Ajara SNS, but some aspects of it keep it from being a rank higher than it. Here's our first double entry, which is seeming just to be a theme at this point. We have Doshagama and the Guardian variant, aptly called Guardian Doshagama. Now these two are actually kind of interesting. I really like the bone blade underneath the Dosha fur, and on the Guardian variant it has some really neat patterns decorating the bone part, though I'm not too sure where the more purple and bright red fur comes from on normal Dosha's dual blades. Especially since Dosha's more of a brown pug bear looking thing. It makes more sense with the Guardian variant due to it having more white fur, but it just seems so disconnected, I guess? The second blade seems to be a shorter, stubbier iron blade with the purple bleeding into the blade with what seems to be either an engraving or runes inscribed into the weapon. And to cap off this double feature, the Guardian blade is a lot more like its main blade counterpart, having the blade practically fully covered with the Guardian splooge design. I like main Dosha enough to give it a 7, but the Guardian one just seems a lot like the Dosha aspects I like got washed out a bit in the white, so I might have to give it a 5. Honestly. And now we finally have the flagship designs for Guardian Arkveld and Arkveld. They're exactly the same. Like, I'm not even kidding. At least with the SNS there was the little Sans eye, but yeah, this is the exact same. I stared at these two for a good while and like quadruple checked, but it's just the same design. There might be some light color variation on the tips of the blades, but that just could be my eyes playing tricks on me. If there's any variation you guys see, by all means let me know, but yeah. Wow. I guess I do like the shape of the weapons. It's a neat look and feels fairly unique in the grand scheme of things, but it feels like one of the less inspired Arkveld weapon designs out of the bunch, unfortunately. I think it might maybe get a 6 at best. So, after careful consideration, there's a part I left out. With both Arkveld's dual blades in demon mode, they go from rigid spikes to Arkveld's chains, and that's really cool. So I'm gonna update the score for Arkveld to an 8? Phew. Lala's up next, and you probably can guess what I'm gonna say based off the last video. I think Lala is just one of the best monsters in Wilds, just off of all the designs it gets. Obviously, you can tell exactly where this ranking's going, it's getting a 10. I really like how the incisors of Lala are used to make the hook like dual blades. The hilt, the handle, the handguard, it's just all perfect. It even has a really cool design following the curve of the blade from the base of the blade to the hook point, and even the point of the blade being a lot more unique with its shape, going into a slight outward curve. It's just all the way on fashion. It's the easiest 10 I've given all video long, and I love Lalabarina so much. I'm sorry, arachnophobia people. Well, we have another new monster to this list, Yian Kutku. Yes, I know he's not new to Wilds. I just meant, okay, you already left your comment, so I guess there's no point in saying it. The dual Kutku is honestly a great design, especially with how Yian Kutku's been used in outside media like the Story spin-off series, and just his characterization over the years shifting to a more silly and goofy vibe. You know, now that I look close at it, it also has the trans flag colors, see? Like, light blue, white, and pink. Can't believe it, we have a monster who supports trans people. He's very based. The actual design is just 2 mini Yian Kutku heads with beaks and everything. Did we kill 2 babies? All jokes aside, I think it's such a fun design. It's a really cute rattle look for all the babies that are watching this somehow. Get out of here, you're learning a bad influence. And honestly, I could easily give it a 9 just from how fun the look of it is. Also, it's pandering. It's just pandering. So remember when I said I had a surprise for you way back in the beginning? Well, Rathian's dual blades are called the Wyvern Lovers, and here's the kicker. It's actually both Rathian and Rathalos' dual blades. Now, being honest, the design of them is a little plain. It's an older design, what did I expect? However, the biggest highlight for me is having each blade dedicated to one of the two Wraths. The main one is based off a Wrathian being, well, green, with some fabric being used for binding, while the offhand blade is black and red for Rathalos. Now, I don't typically include gameplay elements into these rankings, but I think this part is really cool, so just get over it, I guess. Back when Wyvern Lovers were in Iceborne, it was actually a dual element weapon, having both fire and poison to honor both Wraths. So when it made the transition over to Wilds, it lost the poison element for the Wrathian weapon. They had a divorce and the weapon lost the poison in it. I think it's a 7, but the concept and idea behind the design is really carrying it from being otherwise an average look to it. Well, we have probably my favorite blind plague monster. No, not Valhazak. Get out of here! Gor's Hunga Klauen are just the best dual blades ever. Wait, that's the wrong picture. There we go. Yeah, it's just a 10 out of 10. It's the most unique dual blades ever, being a 6 set of claws with sharp blades running down the forearm, and an incredibly cool eye on the back of the palm. I honestly think I have no criticisms of it. Incredibly unique and cool. Even though I started with For You, it would easily win me over no matter what. So yeah, it's 10. We're making a massive shift here. Gypsaros. I mean, I like them, but I'm getting kind of tired of dual blades axes, if I'm being honest. Now, for some history, apparently in old gen, the SNS also had an axe, and way back in the Monster Hunter Online days, the dual blades were just 2 swords. Suspiciously what's being used now for the SNS today. But somewhere along the way they got rid of the SNS having the axe and just gave it one of the blades from the dual blades from Monster Hunter Online. You following me? I mean, I like the look of them. They're still kind of neat, but at this point I think it's just a bit of design saturation, with every other dual blade seeming to be just an axe. So maybe a 5. And with this next entry, I can easily say that dual blades just get just about every Guardian variant currently in the game. However, unfortunately, it's a World Iceborne design, so it suffers from the curse of a very bland looking design that's spruced up by the Guardian patterns a little bit, but it's still just some Fulgur fur slapped on a bone weapon with a slightly different blade. Have I proved my whole point about World having really bad weapon designs yet? Occasionally it has some hits like the Odegron one, but for the most part they're all just it's bad. I'm so glad they learned from it. I guess a 6 is fine, just because it does have some differences to be fair, but it's just a World design. It's not getting very far. On to our final monkey of this video, Bloganga. So the Bloganga dual blades are super interesting. I really like the Psy influence, especially with the ivory being used for the prongs, and the gold gaudy issues I had with the SNS are still present, but I think this time around it's a lot better weaved into the design. It goes from the hilt having these little gold bracers down the spine of the main weapon, and instead of it stopping once the ivory starts, it travels all the way down the ivory blade, and I think that's just the big difference for me. The handle and pommel do have that same issue of the SNS, but I think it detracts less from the overall design, if I've made my point clear. I think I could easily give it a 7. It's a nice surprise and could even be used in any TMNT cosplays you want to do in Monster Hunter Wilds. Now for the monster, I seem to have made a lot of people uncomfortable by pointing out the fact that it has a shield butthole. Gravios. I bet you're all expecting me to say it's a lame design, right? Not at all. I actually really like the spine dual blades. I like how each part of the rock vertebrae make the dual blades a little ribbed for her. It's an old design, and I think it does kind of work with the monster though. The hilt does stand out on the design a little bit, but the clumpy rock look makes up for it to me. And just for those who got tortured with Gravio's butthole shield, you could say this one looks like Gravio's poop, so suffer with that information if you want. I think an 8 is nice enough for the Rumpy Lock Princess. Lumpy Rock Princess. Okay, one little change I'm gonna make here from the last video is we're just gonna cover the Ardian and GOG weapons now instead of in the title update section, just since the Ardian stuff is technically a part of the base game and you can't really talk about them without talking about GOG anymore. Well, the Ardian dual blades are for sure one of my favorite Ardian designs. Doing something crazy while sheathed, it makes a circle. Geometry fans are going insane right now. I just really like how it's just two halves of a circle. It actually forms a circle when sheathed. It's neat. Aside that, I don't like the metal look of the Ardean weapons. It feels a bit too futuristic for me, for something that's actually supposed to be in Monster Hunter, so maybe an 8 for the sheath gimmick. Now, Gogmazios is a really hard pivot from an okay design to a really, really cool one. I like how solid the main hand blade looks while having some really cool scratches and markings along the sides that changed based on the element variation you use. I guess it does look more like some kind of yaoi paddle than it actually having much of a sharp edge at all, but even though I'm not a Fujoshi, it's still a really neat aspect of the design. Now, the offhand blade is a really cool idea. It almost looks like you took the top sharp barbed part of an old-timey fence and wrapped it around a small metal frame. It honestly looks like something out of Twisted Metal with the millions of spikes and barbs along every possible side of the blade, and it also has the same thing as the main blade, but instead of having colored markings, the tint applies to the spikes in the inside of the spiked strip. I think it's a really strong 9, maybe a 10 on a good day, if that's an alright number for the Oil Baron. Well, after a arguably a lot shorter endeavor this time around, we have the title update monsters, the event designs, and the one singular paid layered weapon. So Mizu's dual blades are a little weak compared to the SNS being a fan and a bracelet, but don't go assuming what I'm going to say next. That's evil and very rude. Now, I think Mizu's dual blades are pretty nifty. They seem to look like short katanas with a nice purple to pink gradient on the blade and some pink being used to decorate the sharp part of the blade. It also gets some really cool cherry blossoms decorating the blade, hammering in a bit more of the fact that Dual Blades Japan look with a really nice hilt and a grip to finish up the design. Overall, I'd have to say it's a 7, a bit of an easy pick for the design, but it works pretty well for what it's trying to do. The Blazing Liel is up next for the White Goo Man Zoshia. Now, normally I tend to like the look of the Zoshia weapons, but I think while having cool elements, the overall design for these is a little too much. More so on the offhand than the main one, at least. The main blade looks really cool, where it's almost one of the master blades dipped in black paint with the Game Awards logo slapped on the middle in Wilk. It works just enough to be cool, but the offhand blade is just fully covered in Wilk with a bit of fishnets or lattice pattern going up the blade part. I will say it does kind of look like a snake head at the top there, but I don't think that was intentional. Overall, it's fine, I guess. It could be like a 6, but I'm open to be convinced to go a little higher in the comments below if you really wanted me to. Now, Reggie from Nintendo is a pretty cool monster, but I gotta say those dual blades are probably one of the strongest Reggie weapons I've seen. I really like how they incorporated his little scale ripple into the design while using his talons to make a really cool hook to the top. Practically looks like you cut off 2 Reggie toes and jammed a rod right up through the back of them. The hill's even got a really cool curve to it, and I love the savage sharp look of it this time around. Honestly, might go up to a 10. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure design, but I think it's a really interesting and well thought out design. And last and certainly least before the extra dual blades, 2. Okay, fine, I'll explain it. Look, the Lagiacrus dual blades just don't work for me. I like that the main hand and the offhand blades look different, but the axe dual blades fatigue is really setting in now. I can't wait for the expansion to add another 30 million axe dual blade designs. I think the offhand blade is a lot better, but it just kind of plays into other aspects of all the laggy stuff I don't really like, and that's the weird orange trim everything has. I know it's because of its orange spikes, but I'm just not a fan of it. In all honesty, it's not a 2, it's just probably a 4 for me, and I'll get ready for my time in the gallows now. And we have the only event dual blades in the game, and of course it's beating things with your meat. Of course it is. The Well Done Blades is just a Pandora's box of meat jokes, so feel free to let it all out in the comments, but I think it's a really funny gag design. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't sad the big fork and knife didn't come back from GU, but even though I miss my big fork and knife, I do really like the Well Done dual blades. The meat is the focus in the design, obviously, and I like the knife design in the offhand blade. It seems to be based off the in-game carving knife that your hunter and some chefs in older games use, and I just really like that little attention to detail. I would honestly love a knife like that in real life. It's so cool. It's a bit of a weird one to rank high like this, but I think it gets a really strong 9 for creativity and overall just how well they executed on the funny idea of beating monsters with your meat. And finally, the last dual blades we're covering today, the paid layered DLC, the Cosmoloid Wings. I really hate how much I love these designs because they're really cool. Sheathed, the dual blades attached to your hunter's forearms and would do incredible for a certain cosplay of Fiora from Project X Zone 2. Unsheathed though? Oh my god! The dual blades unfurl into this coolest thing ever, resembling the scythes from Scyther with some incredible little floating bits along the side. Doesn't use the hard light edges like the SNS, but god, that hand scythe look is the coolest thing ever. I'm gonna regret this rating, but I think it gets a 10. It's just a really, really good design. Alright, you know, that was a lot easier than last time, but we aren't really done yet. Now we get to go through and add up every single score I gave the dual blades and see how it compares to the SNS points. And dual blades come out to a total of 225. Compare that to the SNS score of 237, it puts them just behind by about 12 points. You know, that's actually not too bad. Feel free to let me know which one you'd like to see next. Oh, it's gonna be Lance, isn't it?